All right, I left it up to you guys to decide on which one you wanted me to review first, and of course, y'all picked the freaking Proxima. I've said in the past that I don't like this ship, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you voted for the Proxima purely based on that. So thanks, guys. All right, let's get this over with. Now, the Proxima is a ship that is actually not original to Star Trek Online. This ship originally appeared in the video game Star Trek Legacy. Legacy features both an original and a TMP era version of the ship, and Star Trek Online did include that as well. This is the TMP era version of the ship. We'll get a look at the other two skins as well later in this video, but for right now, we're going to start on the stats of this thing, and oh boy, are they not good. The Proxima is a miracle worker science dreadnought, and oh, we have a console release date. This wasn't in the blog for the main bundle, or if it was, I didn't see it. So it's honestly possible that it was there and I just didn't see it. But yeah, apparently console, you guys are getting all this stuff on August 27th. So yeah, heads up there. Though, given what I have to say about this ship, you might want to skip this one. But that's spoilers. Let's get ahead into the rest of this thing. Like I said, this is a miracle worker science dreadnought. It's got a variety of different skins because it had two from the original source material in Star Trek Legacy, and then Star Trek Online added a third one to give it a contemporary 2409, 24. I don't know what year Stowe is in at this point. I think it's 2412 at this point. But yeah, it has a Star Trek Online original skin based off of these other two. Oh yeah, here we go. Proxima 2, and then here is the Stowe era version, the Pollux class. Which honestly, I'm not a big fan of the original two. I'll rant more about that later on to the video when we start looking at the actual customizations on the ship. But I'm actually kind of digging the look of the Pollux. That's not a bad looking ship. Anyway, the stats. Oh, these stats. Okay, so hull modifier of 1.3. Shield modifier 1.3, 4-3 weapons layout, 3 device slots, which is typical for a science dreadnought. Now here's the big problem: bridge officer seating. Commander Science / Miracle Worker, Lieutenant Commander Universal / Miracle Worker, Lieutenant Commander Tactical, Lieutenant Engineering, and Ensign Science. Double Miracle Worker on a science ship. That is criminal right there. That's awful. The consoles: 3 Tactical, 3 Engineering, 5 Science, and 1 Universal. A base turn rate of 7 and an impulse modifier of 0.18 and an inertia rating of 35. So it is a big, slow ship, which is to be expected because it is a science dreadnought. Power bonuses of plus 10 to shield power, plus 20 to aux power, which normally the aux power would be nice on a science vessel, but because this is a ship with double miracle worker seating, no one in their right mind is going to be running any sort of science build on this thing. So that aux power is really just going to waste. And shield power, well, it's shield power. Who gives a crap? Comes with a new console, side pulse phasers. It's got a hangar bay because this is a type of dreadnought. The hangar bay comes pre-equipped with the Type F shuttlecraft, which are the original series shuttlecraft. Those have been around for ages at this point. They were released way back with the Atlas, I think. They're okay pets, so we'll get a look at the stats later on those. They're okay, but they're not amazing. The cyclical quantum slipstream drive because this is a miracle worker ship. It can equip dual cannons because this is a science dreadnought. It has a secondary deflector because, again, science vessel, subsystem targeting, sensor analysis, and it has it says the Dreadnought Mastery Package, but this is not the Dreadnought Mastery Package. This is the Science Mastery Package, which the fact that this typo is here makes me think that this probably was in consideration to becoming a Dreadnought instead of a Science Dreadnought, which would have made this thing a lot better. The Admiralty is Engineering 28, Science 55, Tactical 33, and the Special is minus 5% maintenance per any ship, not including small craft. So those are the stats of this ship, and that's kind of the big thing that makes this ship, well, kind of suck. Double miracle worker on any sort of science ship, it's not good. Miracle worker it's got its issues. It's needed a revamp for ages because of the lackluster bridge officer abilities that it has. But one of the big problems with it is that miracle worker bridge officer seating offers so little support for science builds because it has no on-con triggers and it has very few abilities that will deal any sort of exotic damage. And the two that do deal exotic damage, it's a very small amount of exotic damage. It's not good. But mainly it's the lack of uncon triggers that are the problem here. Like you can see here on this bridge officer seating, I'm having to use all of my science seating to get my uncon triggers in here. So I'm using tractor beam, jam targeting sensors, scramble sensors, photonic shockwave, and gravity well to get my uncon triggers in here. Technically, I could get one more into the engineering seating with emit unstable warp bubble, but I wanted to have these two emergency power abilities. So it's not the worst per se because like you still have Vovi to make up for that, but it's just like I would love to be able to, mix things up a bit with some more specialization seating for science builds sake, but it's not doable. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It is doable. It's just not going to do nearly as well as like a temporal ship or an intel ship. Like if you really want a TMP era ship that will perform really well as a science ship, just get the Ark Royal. The Ark Royal is a fantastic science ship. This thing this thing makes me sad. Like genuinely, with double Miracle Worker seating on it, literally any other kind of Dreadnought would have better suited this thing. Yeah, just a standard Dreadnought that would have been fine. Dreadnought carrier would have been better. Which I mean, there's you could justify that because it's got two hangar bays right there in the front, which Dreadnought carriers do have two hangar bays. But nope, they made it a science Dreadnought. Yeah, it's anyway. Enough ranting about the ship stats. Let's rant about the ship console and the starship trait. The console on this thing is called Side Pulse Phasers. And, well, Side Pulse Phasers, the name alone makes you think, oh, it's going to have some sort of broadside ability, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Apparently, it's just, it fires off a series of pulse phasers off the sides of your ship. And I really wish they would use, like, actual, like, arcs, for this in the tooltip here. Did they actually do that in here? No. So it just says on the sides of your ship. It'll send out several 4 bursts over a period of time. It's not quite as good as Corolla's consoles. I know Spencer was testing that on his live stream. He got way more performance out of the Corolla's console out of the Side Pulse Phasers console. I did my own testing on this. Yeah, it definitely didn't do as well in ISE. But the thing with this console is, well, it's not as powerful as the Corolla's console here with the broadside combat module. It has a much lower cooldown. The Side Pulse Phasers only has a 30-second cooldown. So you were able to use it that much more often. And that's kind of why it doesn't do as well in ISE, I think, is because ISE is a very short TFO. But if you're in a longer, more drawn-out TFO and you're using proper cooldown reduction methods, like the Vovin or unconventional systems, if you're using that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to use this thing a lot. And that actually really pays off in, longer form content. I did a Jupiter gauntlet in this thing, and this thing only did, I think, 4K less than the broadside combat module. So yeah, you can get it pretty close to Corolla's performance as long as you are in combat long enough and are remembering to hit that hit the console too, because that's the other thing too. Its cooldown is so short and you can get it so much shorter that you kind of have to remember, oh, right, I got a console that I got to activate. And plus the other thing is too, you also have to be in position for that console to be of use. Because remember, it's only going to fire off on your side arcs, which does it display the arcs? No, it doesn't. Of course, this one doesn't either. So it's going to have a similar targeting arc to the Corolla's console. I really wish it would give you like a display arc like like it does on the weapons. So it's going to have, I think it's roughly around like 90 degrees to each side on there. And the other thing is that it only has a 5-kilometer range, which because of its reduced damage, I do wish they would have upped that a bit more. But yeah, like I said, if you're in a longer TFO, you'll be able to get it somewhat closer to Corolla's damage output. But yeah, if you're pairing these two together, they'll work just fine together because they seem to have the same size targeting arcs and they have the same range as each other. Both of them only have a 5-kilometer range. It's also funny because that also works well with the Corolla Starship trait, broadside beam support. Broadsiders were I've been begging for ages to get more stuff for broadside builds, and it's nice to see that I guess someone was listening to that, and I hope we get more, honestly. Like I really like broadside builds, and I really like to see more stuff for them as we continue on this. I do wish this thing had better passives though, like maximum to auxiliary and a buff to power transfer rate. Like power transfer rate buff, that's nice to have, especially if you're not on an engineering character, which I am, so it's not going to be that amazing for me, but it is still going to be nice to have for an energy weapon build. But the maximum aux power, that's kind of weird unless you're like doing a Dusai build. That could be kind of helpful there, but if you're running a Dusai build, you're probably not going to be running this exact console. You'll probably be running stuff that's going to be more forward facing, because Dusai builds, they're finicky. They have a lot of weird requirements. So yeah, you could run this on a Dusai build if you really want to. The real issue is that if you are running a Dusai build, You don't want to do it on this ship because you're gonna want some intel seeding. Because you're gonna want OSS to help with the ridiculous power requirements of a do side build because you need to max out your weapon and your aux power, and you're not going to be able to. That's going to be a lot more easy if you have OSS, which you're not going to get on this ship. Now let's get a look at the visuals on the console. I'm sure plenty of you are curious about that. Now I know some of you, I've done this kind of thing in the past with newer ships. Plenty of you have asked me what this map is. This is the beginning portion of the episode Doomsday Machine, which is a very early episode in the Klingon War arc. Yeah, Doomsday Machine. This is the opening part of it, so just go in here, kill the Klingon ships in here. But these Klingon ships in the Dreadnought, you will still be able to target. So it makes for a decent kind of test ground. The downside is that because this is a Federation episode, KDF players and KDF aligned players do not have access to it. Anyway, let's get a look at the visuals of side pulse phasers. Keep in mind you do have to be within 5 kilometers for this console to be able to take effect. And that's what it looks like and sounds like. It's just a series of phaser pulses. They're very like TOS blue, which kind of fits better with like the TOS version of the ship. Though I think in Legacy the refit version still had those phasers. I don't remember exactly. It's been a very long time since I played Star Trek Legacy, and because it's not on GOG or any other digital platforms like several other Star Trek games, I have not been able to replay it. So yeah. But yeah, that's what the console looks like. And you can see it's already almost off cooldown because of that 30-second cooldown. So let's fire that off again. Yeah, honestly, not a bad console. You just need a bit of time for it to build up those DPS numbers, a bit more than you would probably in ISE. But in a lot of other environments, this is going to be a solid console and is definitely going to pair really well with full broadside and other broadside type consoles or starship traits, except for the Vengeance console. That thing is just unforgivably bad. The starship trait is called Use of Power. Whenever you activate a Science or Miracle Worker Bridge Officer ability, for 20 seconds, you will gain buffs to Starship Shield Penetration, Starship Weapon Specialization, which that's your crit chance skill, and Starship Weapon Amplification, which that is your crit chance skill for your weapons, which this is... I wish this thing was better because one, the fact that it's only buffing the skill and not just giving you a straight up percentage of those buffs is just it's not going to be nearly as good as it sounds. So that's not going to be that great. Also, it scales with your aux power, which fortunately with that plus 20 aux power that this ship gets natively, thanks to its native power buffs, you can actually get pretty high. Like I'm sitting here at 95 aux power, which is basically where it maxes out. Like if I move this up to here, if I max this out, yeah, that's still at 130. So it basically I've basically already maxed it out just by sitting at my normal weapon at my normal power levels that I normally leave it at, because I usually keep my aux power maxed out as much as I can because I'm always using Fleet Power Network Array on my energy weapon build. So this would synergize with this pretty well, assuming this was better. The other big drawback with this thing is that it only triggers once every 60 seconds, and it only has an uptime of 20 seconds. So that's a whole 40 seconds that you are without these already kind of mediocre buffs. So it's just like, it's very about I don't know. I'm I'm so tired of these starship traits that are just, they feel like I get not everything can be like super crazy S tier power level, but this just feels, I don't know, purposely held back for the sake of what exactly? What is the point of it? I don't know. It's like there are two. I get power creep has gotten crazy, but at the same time, it's just like, why not just embrace that a little bit, because we're paying for this crap. Now, my friend Galactic Gaming also pointed out something to me. Assault Formation Theta here. This is the starship trait off of the legendary Talis. It's kind of similar to the Proxima starship trait. This one also gives you a sizable buff to weapon amplification. I say sizable in terms of relative to the actual like skill buff that it would give you. It only lasts for 10 seconds, but the thing with this one is that it doesn't have a minimal lockout because it's linked to attack pattern beta or a cloaking device. So you can actually trigger this thing far more, but it just won't last as long. Whereas with this thing, it's a similar effect. It's just it's triggered far less because of the extraordinarily long lockout periods. So the point that Galactic Gaming was trying to make to me was that use of power is basically just a crappier version of Assault Formation Theta, which I'm having a hard time disagreeing with. Yeah, there are some differences between the two, but they are activated in a similar fashion. But it's just the difference between the two lockout periods is how Assault Formation Theta has next to no lockout period. It's just, whatever the lockout period of attack pattern Omega is, versus the hard 60-second lockout you get with use of power. It's just like, I don't know, what's the point there? I don't know, maybe I'm being too harsh there. Star Trek Online is riddled with starship traits that are less than ideal for a lot of circumstances. It's just, I don't know, I think it's just like everything piling on with like it doesn't have great stats on the ship itself, and the starship trait isn't that great. And honestly, you'll see why I'm kind of on this whole bundle, when we get to the other two ships too, because so far it hasn't been quite as stellar as I had been hoping. Honestly, I feel like we all got really spoiled with Heritage Starship Bundle, and we're just hoping to recapture that magic, but this ain't doing it. I did a couple test runs in this thing too. This is from a random ISE where I only did 369k, which not great, but I've done worse, I suppose. But yeah, let's get a closer look at this. We can kind of see like the comparison of the side pulse phasers in comparison to the Kerala. So broadside beam support, that is the Kerala's trait. That did 70k in this run. Then we got Fire at Will 1 and 2. Full broadside, that's the Kerala's console. That did 56k. And then we get down here to left side pulse phasers and right side pulse phasers. That is the console off of... Wow, I like totally blanked on the name there for a second. I think I might be going insane. Anyway, you can see adding these two up, that is the total for what the Proxima's console did. And it only did a little bit shy of 24k. So not that great in comparison to full broadside up here. But if we look at this in another setting, I also did a Jupiter Gauntlet run. And also, hey, Darth Dragonborn, if you're watching this, how did you get into my patrol? I don't know how he showed up on this thing. You couldn't see, he didn't do anything. I'm guessing it was just like some sort of instancing error, but I was not expecting someone else's name to show up on the parse here. That was very odd. But yeah, anyway, full broadside in this case only did 34k, and then broadside beam support actually only did 30k, which that just might have been a problem with my own maneuvering. But then we got the left broadside pulse phasers did 10k here, and where's right side? Right side is 18k. So add those up, 28k, close to 30k. So you compare that to full broadside, which did 34k in this run. It's a lot more comparable, and I think that's part of it because, one, my maneuvering probably wasn't that great, but also because Jupiter Gauntlet takes longer than ISE does, especially in a group setting. So really, if you give the side pulse phasers their time to build up, because they have such a low cooldown, give them time to build up that DPS, they're gonna do a decent amount of damage. You just got to give them the time to do it. And of course, you also got to remember to click the button as often as possible. It almost makes me want to like spam the thing, put the thing on my spam bar, but honestly, I don't think the cooldown is quite low enough to warrant putting it on the spam bar. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe you guys will have better luck with that. I might play around with that a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, overall, like I said, I don't think the console is bad. It just, you got to give it enough time to work its magic. I do wish they would increase the range on it, because like it doesn't do quite as much damage as the Kerala's console. It needs time to like build up to do that additional damage if it's going to be like, super comparable to each other. And I feel like increasing the range on it would be nice. I feel like they, thought the reduced recharge time was enough of a compromise for the lower damage, but I don't know. I feel like increasing the range to something closer to 10 kilometers would be a good addition to this console as well, just because it doesn't do quite as well as Kerala's. And I feel like just increasing the range would make the trade-off a bit better. So overall, the Proxima is... it's not a good science ship, that's for sure. Making this thing into a science dreadnought, I feel like, was a really big mistake. It ruins the ship. If you're going to go with a miracle worker thing on this, either give this thing a different secondary seat. Like if this thing had an intel seat, it would be a pretty solid It'd be pretty solid as a science vessel. You could run like do side build on there because you have OSS. You've got access to better uncon triggers that way. It's also a similar story with temporal. You could throw on better uncon triggers in there. You could also have recursive shearing on there, which is always good for a science build. If you had command in there, you could make this into a decent torpedo boat. Of course, even if it did have a secondary command seat, it would still be a science dreadnought, in which case you're still missing a weapon slot, which is not ideal for a torpedo boat. And that's kind of the whole thing around this thing. Like the setup, it makes for an okay energy weapon build. Double Miracle Worker aside, just the regular Miracle Worker stuff, it makes it for a solid energy weapon boat. But you're gonna have the downside of you're missing a weapon slot, which is not good for an energy weapon build. Like that secondary deflector is not going to make up the difference. The console is probably the only thing I'm actually kind of like, oh, that's kind of neat about this. Not just this ship, but honestly, the whole bundle. I do like the console, but that's just because I really like broadside builds. Not everyone does. So if you're not into broadside builds, you're probably not going to be into this console. But if you do like broadside builds, you might want to check it out. I wouldn't put it super high on the list. Obviously, Kerala should take priority there. But this one's worth checking out. It's definitely going to do better than the Vengeance console. All right, let's get a look at the visuals of this thing. We'll start with the original TOS era Proxima class, which this is the original series version. Like, I've never really understood the appeal of this ship. It's two hulls strapped together with some bits, and then some nacelles and a pod strapped on with more bits, and then a saucer section welded on with more bits. It feels so inelegant. It feels, and I've made this comparison before. It looks like a pontoon boat with warp nacelles and a saucer. I don't know. This look has never appealed to me, and I'm not into it. That said, I don't want to be a complete dick to the Stowe art team. They have done a really good job of like updating this to current visual standards, because you got to keep in mind they're based off of a ship from Star Trek Legacy, which was released, when was that, 2006? Yep, December of 2006. So yeah, I was just barely correct. But yeah, so they've definitely done a really good job of just bringing it up to modern visual standards. There are some things I think are cool here. Like I do like this little shuttle bay down here in the front. I guess that's a shuttle bay or whatever sort of bay this is. I do think that's kind of neat. So this does a good job of adding a bunch of little design aesthetics that you don't normally see in the original series aesthetic. Everything is so based off of the original Constitution, and there's just a bunch of little differences here that I do appreciate. Like the nacelles are a bit of a different shape from the classic Constitutions. The star drive is definitely a different shape too. Like this, especially this end down here, that actually looks kind of cool. I would love to see a ship that has just like a single star drive section, and that has more like a conventional Starfleet layout rather than this double star drive section look to it. I would love to see like this, or at least elements of this used in other places. But yeah, just altogether though, I've never been a fan of this ship, and it's just, I don't know. I kind of wish I did. I do wish I was more enthusiastic about this, because I feel like I'm being a huge bummer. But I don't know. What do you want me to do? I can't. What do you want me to do? Force it? This is where a bunch of people probably start shouting yes, but leave me alone. I'm not going to. Anyway, TMP version. This one was also in Star Trek Legacy, and again, the devs did a really great job of bringing this up to modern standards, which is no surprise at this point. The art team usually knocks it out of the park on this one. It's just I'm not a big fan of the source material on this one, so of course I'm not going to be a huge fan of the updated version of it either. Some neat stuff with the I saw there's some neat stuff with the cells on this one. For one, here we go, nacelles. There are various different versions here. We've got nacelle. These are the stock nacelles off of it, and then you got nacelles alpha, which remove the little glows in between the two sets of nacelles. Then we've got a beta set, which adds more glows to it, so you get glows along the sides of the warp nacelles, and then the gamma version gives you orange Bussard collectors if you like that look on your TMP era ship. So you got some options here. I also forgot to go back and look at the nacelles on the original Proxima. So you've got the standard one. You also got these different looking nacelles as well too. So that you got some options for the Bussard collectors. Now let's get a look at the Stowe era version, the Pollux. Now this one I actually like a lot better than the original ones. There are some things I'm not a huge fan. I don't like this big open space here, which you would think I would really like because of how big of a fan of the Odyssey I am, but like all of this section, this looks fantastic. I love it from this top angle here, but once you get down here, it's looking a little, I don't know. I'm just not super into that part, but I love this part up here. Like this kind of like it turns like the rickety looking welded on nacelles into a much more solid piece here. I really like that. That's really does a lot to like improve the look of this sort of design aesthetic to me. But still, the whole double star drive section pontoon looking thing still doesn't appeal to me. But yeah, overall I do like this one a lot better. This is a decent looking ship. Also, nacelles for this one. Here we go. You can also get single nacelles on the Pollux version, which I don't know if I like it better or worse. It's just it's an option. I don't know. Like I honestly can't tell if I like this better or worse or not. But it is a slightly different vibe, and I do appreciate having the option there. Also, another weird thing you can do with this ship. Apparently, the two hulls they're independent, so you can you can go full asymmetric on this thing, which honestly, it makes me like it less. Honestly, you can go, get a little bit of a clump ship into your Proxima class. Oh boy, sure people are gonna have fun with that. Anyway, I know there are plenty of people who really like this ship, and I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum here, for once. But yeah, it's this one. It's not my thing. So, but I hope the rest of you enjoy this thing. So yeah, that is the Proxima. It is not a very good ship, if I'm being honest. I'm sure plenty of you are going to be really interested in this. Particularly those of you who don't really care about stats or DPS wise with your builds. You're just kind of throwing whatever you like on it, and just having fun with it. That's fine. I'm not gonna discourage that. It's just like whenever I get like down on these kind of ships, I always get accused of being like, oh well, you just don't understand Space Barbie, and that's not true. I really like Space Barbie. Space Barbie is obviously a very key part of this game. I very much understand of building a ship that fits your aesthetic rather than mainly focusing on DPS, and I get that. I really hate it when Space Barbie has to sacrifice too much on performance, and that is what this is. It is Space Barbie that focuses way more on the Space Barbie and not enough on performance, because like double miracle worker on a science ship, that is just absolutely terrible. And the thing is, this thing would have been so much better if it were just like a normal Dreadnought, but no, they had to make it a science Dreadnought for some reason, and that really kills this thing. Yeah, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments of what you think of the Proxima. Are you into it, or are you as disappointed as I am? Let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you'd like to further support the channel, become a channel member to gain additional channel perks. Check out the merch store down below. Be sure to check out the affiliate links down below in the pinned comment. Also, if you're ever shopping on the Epic Game Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. Any of these really help me out, and I really do appreciate it. Either way, though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.